Hello and welcome to Endurance Minded. It's the podcast that aims to redefine what it means to reach our full potential by exploring how movement and mindset impacts our lives and how we can all work to show up as the best versions of ourselves. I'm your host, Taylor Thomas, founder at TEC, and before we get started, I've got an all call. If you're a coach or an entrepreneur in the health and fitness industry who's trying to grow your business without burning out, I want to personally invite you to apply for the Growth Circle. The Growth Circle is our business accelerator program at TEC, and it's designed specifically to serve providers like you in the health and fitness industry. People who are incredible at what they do, but they need a proven framework and real support to actually scale. Let's be real, running a coaching business can feel like a grind. You're juggling programming and client communication, marketing, admin work, and somehow you're still trying to grow your business. That's where the Growth Circle comes in. Inside the program, we help you nail down your ideal client and get really clear on what your offer is. We help you build a consistent lead gen process so you're not wondering where your next client comes from. We help you improve your sales skills without feeling salesy. And most importantly, create systems and support so that you're not doing it alone. You'll be a part of a driven community of other business owners in this space who get it. We host regular group calls, team intensives, mastermind sessions to make sure you're never stuck trying to figure it out in a silo. So if you're tired of winging it, if you're tired of trying to do it all by yourself, to recreate the wheel, figure out what levers to pull, what's broken and what's not, if you're ready to turn your passion into a business that actually works for you, I want to invite you to apply. You can find the link to the Growth Circle in our show notes. And I want you to really think about what's best for you and your business. I want you to think about how your business can really make an impact on the industry and how it can give you the life that you're excited about and make the money that you deserve, working with the clients that you love, spending time investing in the things that you care about and you're passionate about. So if this is a problem you're committed to solving and you want to take your business to the next level, again, click the link in the show notes. I can't wait to hear from you. Hello and welcome back. We're going to dive into a topic today that I think is going to be a little touchy for many of you. It's something I know is and has been, continues to be challenging for me personally to grapple with and to do a good job of. And what that is the cost of always being on. I think that high performers aren't struggling because they lack discipline. It's something that we've even talked about relatively recently in this season's podcast, but I don't think that a lack of discipline is what we should be talking about. I think high performers at our core are struggling because we have normalized constant activation, always busy, always on, always productive, always finding our value and ultimately much of our identity in being productive. And so in this episode, we're going to explore the nuance between drive, which is a good thing. We want to harness that superpower. Those of us who are uniquely positioned to produce more, to do more, I don't think that we should hamper that drive. But what we are going to explore today is the nuance between that drive and this feeling of chronic tension, this tension between our ambition and our hyper-vigilance, between being committed and being unable to disengage. And I want this episode, as you listen, to feel reflective. I hope that it's insightful. I hope that it also allows you to see yourself in your lived experience. I'm going to ground this in experiences that I've had and experiences that I have recognized in others that I've had the opportunity to spend time with. And I want it to be highly actionable because, again, in that nuance between that drive and the chronic tension that is created around hypervigilance, there's a lot of opportunity. And I want to just take today to explore why that exists and what opportunities might be available to you to shift into some other patterns. Today is not going to be about making you feel bad or telling you that you are doing it quote unquote wrong. But through my own lived experience, and again with others that I've spent time with, I do know that there is an opportunity. I think that it is worth applying some effort and some critical thought into how we think about the effort that we're putting in and where that effort is actually coming from. And then when we take time outside of that effort to actually take a beat and to actually rest. And I know from experience that some of the most driven people that I know don't know how to rest. And I'm going to put myself in that camp. This is something that I struggle with mightily. I tell myself that I don't do well resting, which partly is true. I think we all rest in different ways. And, laying on the couch, for instance, is not what works best for me. And I know that for many high performers, rest looks and feels different. But I know that some of the most driven people I know truly don't know how to rest. And it's not because they're weak. It's because our nervous system no longer knows how to trust safety. We don't know what it's supposed to feel like to just be, to just sit, and to just truly rest, because we are so wrapped up in our ability to produce, and others have put a lot of pressure on us to do that. And so we're gonna dive into that today. And I want you to be really honest with yourself, and I want you to just sit with what I'm talking about, some of the reflections that I provide, some of the data that I offer up, and then ultimately some of the actionable guidance that you'll have the opportunity to walk away with. And let's start by just kind of framing what and where this takes place. Culture rewards a lot of these tendencies, and it's easy to get trapped in them if you are someone who has a natural proclivity towards these types of behaviors. But culture rewards things like pushing ourselves harder, grinding, right? That's language that we hear so much, and it's so pervasive, and it is ubiquitous in so many different areas, whether it's our work, whether it's our exercise, whether it is our even the work that we do on ourselves. We reward culturally staying engaged, always being on, always being available. That person seems like someone who is quote unquote more successful because they are they're more engaged, they're more on, they're more active, staying productive, always yielding or producing results, always improving. Someone who's always focused on the next step, the next rung of the ladder. These are things culturally that we reward. And so it is easy to align with these things because they do have value, right? They have value culturally as well as they produce value. We become more successful oftentimes by engaging and doubling down in these areas. But what really no one talks about is the psychological cost of this constant readiness, always being ready to produce, always being on. We certainly don't talk about the emotional fatigue hidden beneath that level of ambition, what it costs us internally to be that driven, and everything energetically that comes with that, the cost there. And we don't talk about how hypervigilance really masquerades as discipline. And I think this is one to really double down on. I want you to think about this because discipline has become a very sexy term in the last handful of years. And it's something that so many people aspire to have. They tout themselves as extremely disciplined, that they'll do the things that no one else is willing or able to do because of discipline. And I'm here to say discipline is great. I think it is a skill to be worked, but just on the other side of that, it has a really dark side. And this is where this hyper vigilance and this just extreme disconnection and this chronic stress um, masquerades as discipline. We paint a narrative internally as well as externally that allows us to say that the way that the reason that we behave this way is because of discipline. When I think truthfully it is this hypervigilance, this chronic stress, this we'll get into what that means from a cortisol and dopamine response perspective, but I want to just state as we frame that up that this episode is not about lowering standards. I want you to drive. Again, I think it's a superpower for those of us that are driven. I think it is something to be harnessed. But it is about understanding the difference between what sustainable intensity can actually look and feel like and survival mode. And I think at a baseline level, we are mostly stuck in fight or flight. I think most high achievers are severely overstimulated and constantly stuck in some version of fight or flight or survival mode. And so that's what I want to help make more clear today, is what the other opportunities might be when we still harness that drive, that passion, that intensity, that discipline, but also recognize that just on the other side of that is a very I think truthfully a very dangerous place. I think that it can have ill effects in so many areas of our lives, and I'll talk more specifically about those as we move through this episode. But I think that it is really worth paying attention to, because I think that the impact is really outsized. We think that that's not the case, but I know for a fact that it actually can have a tremendously damaging impact on our lives when we don't recognize that we're on this slippery slope of hypervigilance, and again, the kind of dark side of our drive. So let's start by, or let's take it a step further. Now that we understand kind of why these things show up, and then some of the things that we don't talk about, what are the performance traps? What are these things that no one's talking about? And again, just to reiterate, so many high performers are functioning in chronic low grade stress without realizing it. So I want to say that I don't think it's for a lack of willingness to improve. I think actually the people that I'm talking about are ripe for change because they're hungry for growth, but we just don't know what that looks like. We don't realize that we're functioning in this chronic low grade stress environment, again, survival mode. And to be even more clear and to put an even finer point on it, I'm not talking about burnout. I'm not talking about collapse. These are other things. I'm talking about just this constant activation, this consistent, just always something to do, always paying attention to something, always engaged, always activated. And it is that constant activation that creates this neurological degradation that just prohibits and inhibits our ability to see things clearly. And I can't overstate this enough. I'm not saying this to make anyone feel bad or to say that you're doing it wrong. I recognize that achievement can so often become emotional protection. We build up these infrastructures, these systems in our lives for a reason, to protect us. For many people, productivity becomes safety. Whether that's things that happened early in our lives, whether that's the way we interacted with the world or our parents or our peers, productivity became a way to be safe because we didn't want to sit with ourselves or sit with others. Always being in motion allows us to be avoidant. So movement becomes avoidance because it's easier to stay in motion than to sit with the things that we actually need to deal with. Achievement becomes a version of identity regulation. We can make our achievements mean something about us and mold our identity to match what we hope actually exists in the world versus what is the truth. And so if we continue to achieve, if we continue to activate, if we continue to be productive, then we're able to navigate around all of the nuances and all of the things that we actually are scared to death to take a beat and sit with. And so I recognize that achievement is a mechanism that so often is built to protect us. And I mean, think about this in any myriad of situations. We see it with athletes who panic when they become injured or have to take a step back or their trajectory doesn't look and feel like what they thought it was going to feel like because it means something about them, right? Their identity and their commitment to consistent motion progress every single week after week means that they don't have to stop and sit with, why are they doing this? What is the value? What's their why? What's their connection to this consistent movement? Why are they training? Why do they have this goal? All we have to do is continue to move. And so when that is thwarted, we have to sit with ourselves, right? Founders who feel guilty when they rest, right? High achievers in the career space who work every weekend, work all the time, who feel guilty when they take a step back because they feel like if they take a step back, so too does their access to progress, right? The only way to move forward and to get what they want is consistent forward movement. Leaders who can't stop checking in, micromanagers, people who are always on email and Slack, who want to be known as the person who's always available, always working first, always working late, always. Coaches who can't separate their self-worth from the outcomes of their clients. The list goes on. We see this achievement as emotional protection in so many different areas. And the problem here is not hard work. The problem is when your nervous system forgets how to come back down. Hard work is great. I think that it is the thing that I'm most grateful for in my life is my willingness and commitment to hard work. And knowing that is truly the only way that you get what you want is an unbelievable level of effort that is far and above what we ever thought was actually going to be needed, right? We know that work is what produces results, but the problem isn't the hard work. It is when we can't come off of that, when we make it mean something about us, and when our nervous system forgets how to actually regulate. There's some really interesting data here that I want to share just as we move through. The American Psychological Association has repeatedly reported chronic stress levels at historic highs in working adults. Research from Stanford shows chronic stress impairs decision-making, emotional regulation, our memory, our recovery capacity. This is a big one. We wonder why we feel like shit all the time, and we blame it on our exercise. We blame it on our sleep. We blame it on this is the underlying problem. So many people that I talk to, this is the reason. Low-grade chronic stress, hyper-vigilance, this underlying constant need to be on and always activated is what's actually derailing your physical progress. So again, decision-making, emotional regulation, our memory, recovery capacity, all of these Stanford found to be impacted by chronic stress. We also know when we have chronic stress that it elevates our cortisol. Elevated cortisol over time is linked to disrupted sleep, lower testosterone, higher inflammation, impaired immune function. Right? These people that are always a little bit sick, a little bit cold, takes them 3 to 4 weeks to come off of a regular flu. you can't quite catch up, your sleep's not right. All again, I want you just to put yourself in that place. And I know if you're this person, you know what this feels like. You're always a little bit off. Never quite 100%. Never have those days where you feel like you can break through. Never have those days where you feel rested, where you feel sharp, where you feel available and on. This is what this feels like. Low grade, chronic stress all the time. And then with that comes an elevated cortisol response. Your body never comes down. You might take a rest day in quotes, but your body doesn't. You're still pinned, right? And so a lot of high performers, they don't feel anxious. I think that we might imagine a world where this comes with a level of anxiety, which is language that is used broadly in the world to describe what this feels like. But I don't think high performers actually feel anxious, not in the same way. I don't think anxiety fully sums this up. What they feel is restless. They feel impatient. They feel like they're unable to slow down, like access to rest is not something that is afforded to them. They feel emotionally flat when they're not stimulated. And I think that distinction matters, right? Anxiety and anxiousness is a separate thing, and it's very real. I'm not diminishing or minimizing anxiety and the impact that that has on us, but I want to highlight that I don't think that fully captures and encapsulates the story that's going on right now. Some people don't know who they are without pressure. And I want you to ask yourself if that's you, right? Do you know who you are if the pressure didn't exist? Could you operate? Would you feel like you had any value? Would you know what to do with your hands? Right? Some people don't know how to operate without pressure. And that is different than people that thrive under pressure. Again, that's a superpower. I'm not saying that we diminish that. The difference here is that some of us, and I want you to ask yourself if this is you, don't know who you are without pressure. And that's when this starts to become an issue. So what we're really talking about is stillness. I would even maybe say that rest isn't language that we need to use. Now, I'll mention it on and off because I think that it is a ubiquitous enough term to capture the sentiment of what we're trying to talk about here. But what we're really talking about is stillness, the ability to just be, to not be activated. And I want to be clear, as much mentally as physically. If you're sitting, but you can't be with your thoughts, you're always on, you're nervous about what's happening behind the scenes, being productive, that is not stillness. So why does stillness feel threatening? So many ambitious people struggle with silence, with stillness, because that silence removes the distractions. And it's in those distractions that we find what we're looking for. We find the ability to sidestep the things that we actually need to work on. We sidestep our excuses. When we feel like crap, when we don't have the time to recover, we get to hang on to reasons that we're not performing. That's a hell of a lot easier than working on the things that are getting in our way. It's easier to have excuses, to have distractions, than it is to actually do the work required to unpack those things and solve them. So the moment things get quiet, here's what people start to feel like. And again, I'm talking specifically about why stillness feels threatening. So the moment things get quiet, you start to feel uncertainty. What's going to happen? Am I gonna have to pay some consequence for this stillness or silence? Feel loneliness, inadequacy, grief, unresolved emotions. Again, all of these things start to surface when things get quiet. And these are things that are challenging. We don't want to sit with unresolved emotions, grief, feelings of inadequacy, loneliness, uncertainty. Those are hard things to wrestle with. That's why we stay busy. That's why we stay activated, because when things get quiet, the real stuff starts to surface. And it's, again, a hell of a lot easier to do the other thing than, and to tell ourselves that we're being productive, we're being disciplined, we're motivated, we're driven. Those are all very sexy things. Those make us feel really good about ourselves. You know what doesn't make us feel good about ourselves? Uncertainty, loneliness, inadequacy, grief, unresolved emotions. So what do? We train harder, right? Instead of sitting with those, we do more. We work longer hours. We consume more content. We read more books. We listen to more podcasts, because if we can stack enough pieces that help us feel like we're in growth mode, then we don't have to admit that we're actually being held back by all these things that we're not willing to sit with. We stay busy, right? We stay distracted. And what I think is important from a nuanced perspective to point out is this isn't weakness. Let me be clear. I'm not saying that it is a weakness that we're not doing those things. Again, it's adaptation. High performers learned early that achievement created approval. We learned early that when we achieve, we get approval for that. That feels good. High performers learned early that usefulness creates connection. When we are useful, we are valuable to people. And we learned early that performance creates safety. If we're performing, no one's going to pay attention to our dark side. No one's going to pay attention to our blind spots. No one's going to ask questions about what we aren't doing. They're only going to see what we are doing. And so performance creates safety because we don't have to sit with, again, all of these other things: uncertainty, loneliness, inadequacy, grief, unresolved emotions. We get to just move forward. And that is so much, I mentioned the fight or flight earlier. That is very much the fight or flight adaptation. That we've adapted to be comfortable in a space where we are always in scarcity. We are always making decisions from a place of fear. We're always running to the next thing because stopping feels more dangerous than being in fight or flight. We also get a dopamine response. We get stuck in a dopamine loop that is linked to our achievement cycles. We achieve, we get dopamine. We don't achieve, we don't get that. We've wired our bodies to only deliver feel-good chemicals based on external achievements, not just our state of being, not the fact that we could feel good just for the sake of feeling good because we showed up today, because we're just here. And we get to be happy, we get to have access to feeling good, regardless of our productivity, regardless of our response, regardless of our achievements. And I think that the best way that I can describe that is so many people are in endurance races. They're running an endurance event emotionally, and they just never cross the finish line. There's a constant emotional toll that comes with this approach to life, and it's just like the race never ends. So if you feel that, I want you to ask yourself, when was the last time you sat in silence without reaching for some sort of stimulation? Could be anything: phone, text messages, YouTube, podcasts. We mask content as productivity in this day and age. Well, I sat with a podcast. I sat with an audiobook. I sat with a YouTube video that made me better, that allowed me to learn something. That is still achievement. That's not what I'm talking about. So ask yourself, when was the last time you sat in silence without reaching for stimulation. Then I want you to ask yourself, do you rest or just temporarily stop working? There's a difference. Rest is emotional regulation. Taking a small break from work is not rest. And I would also almost guarantee that when most of us take a break from work, we put that energy into something else that feels productive. And then next, I want you to ask yourself, can your body actually feel safe when you're not productive? Do you get nervous? Do you get scared? Do you get fearful? Do you feel like other people are getting ahead? Do you feel like people are judging you? If you're not productive, does it actually feel safe? I want you to be really honest with yourself and and when you're asking yourself those three questions, because that is going to be super telling. I think that so many people aren't addicted to achievement. They're addicted to avoiding what they feel when they stop. Achievement is hard. Achievement takes a tremendous amount of effort. There's an emotional cost, there's a physical cost, there's a relationship cost. The cost is very high of achievement. So I would actually argue that so many people aren't addicted to achievement like we say that they are or we are, but they are addicted to avoiding what they feel when they stop achieving. And that avoidance is stronger than achievement. Right? Again, not sitting with those feelings of inadequacy, grief, so on and so forth. Let's go a layer deeper. Let's talk about the difference between discipline and dysregulation. There is a massive difference between intentional intensity and compulsive intensity. Intensity is a good thing. In the right doses, intensity builds character, it builds fitness, it builds progress. There are seasons where intensity is good, but the moment that becomes compulsive is the moment it also shifts into dysregulation. So what does healthy discipline look like? What does healthy intensity look like? It looks like choosing hard things consciously, recognizing what season you're in, taking stock of what the cost is, aligning your expectations with a desired outcome, and then choosing hard things consciously. It looks like recovering intentionally, taking dedicated time, knowing when you've pushed too hard, also recognizing the emotional and psychological toll of the things that you've dedicated yourself to, and recognizing that it's not just about physical effort. And then recovering intentionally, taking time to disconnect. Again, emotionally, psychologically, as much as physically. Healthy discipline looks like being emotionally present, being able to shift into a state of being that allows you to not only be physically there, but emotionally there for yourself and for others. Healthy discipline looks like having flexibility, not being so regimented, not being so tied to a specific routine or outcome or system that you are able to navigate. You're able to lift your head up, take your blinders off, pay attention to what's going on around you. And then healthy discipline looks like maintaining relationships. Maintaining relationship with yourself first, maintaining relationships with those you care about, communicating clearly, communicating from a place of being emotionally present, being flexible, paying attention to what they need, advocating for what you need. This is what healthy discipline looks like. Dysregulation looks much different. Now, I want you to check yourself. We masquerade dysregulation as discipline all the time. So this is an important distinction. Dysregulated performance looks like the following: an inability to disengage. Now, we would also say that the other side of that is being always on is hyper-disciplined. What I'm going to advocate for is that is dysregulated performance. our inability to disengage. We have guilt when we're resting, specifically resting without sleep. If you fall asleep because you're exhausted, that is not the same thing as intentionally resting, right? So you feel guilt when resting, you're emotionally numb, so you're not able to be present emotionally. You have a lack of emotional bandwidth. You have a lack of emotional response. You have an inability to tap into a full range of emotions. That's going to look like maybe the only two that you feel like you really have access to are happy or sad, right? Glad or mad. You don't have access and don't feel like you can express the full range of emotional intelligence. You're irritable, short fuse. That again ties into a lack of flexibility, right? When things don't go as planned, you get mad. And then you're chasing stimulation constantly. Always something. Next thing, next thing, next thing. Now, we tell ourselves that that's the way it has to be. This is how my life is. I get this thing, it's stacked. No, that's a choice, right? So you're chasing stimulation because those are the systems you've built. Helps you feel safe. Again, it's also easier to do that than to sit with the things that you actually need to work on. So a lot of people are celebrated for work ethic. In practice, this looks great. This person's a workhorse, right? We celebrate that type of work ethic. But what I would advocate, or what I'm going to offer up, is that it is actually driven by fear. It's a fear of falling behind. It's a fear of not being enough. It's a fear of losing your identity. It's a fear of disappointing others. It's a fear of letting yourself down. It's a fear of feeling like you're going to not rise to your full potential or fall short of your goals. It's a fear of failure. So we put these unhealthy tendencies in a package and label it work ethic. And we really like that. That feels good. But what I'm going to offer up is that, again, if we open that package, what's inside is actually being driven by fear. And there's some supporting information here that I think is valuable. Some research in sports psychology consistently shows that, first and foremost, recovery is essential for adaptation. If you feel like you can't get ahead, if you feel like you're flatlined, it's a recovery problem. And again, it's probably not physical recovery. We know that overstimulation decreases performance. The body cannot operate at that type of stimulus or with that type of stimulus all the time. And then we know that chronic stress reduces creativity and your ability to problem solve, which is going to layer on to those feelings of inflexibility, inadequacy, guilt, and so on. And so we actually get stuck in a negative feedback loop by not approaching these things, by not working to understand why and how we got here and what it looks like on the other side of it. We continue to drag ourselves down. So the key takeaway here, if you don't listen to anything else I'm saying, is that, and I'll just say it again, you do not need to become less ambitious. Please hear me when I say, this is not Taylor saying, go sit on the couch and figure out how to rest or recover. You don't need to become less ambitious. Harness that. We need people in the world who are hungry. But what you do need is a nervous system that is capable of carrying that ambition sustainably. And this is where it starts to fall away. If our nervous system, if we don't have the ability to carry that ambition, then we are doing ourselves and those around us a disservice. So let's think about how to now build some emotional endurance. I hope that at this point, one, I hope you can see yourself in some of this. 99.9% of our audience on Endurance Minded should resonate with this, right? Because it resonates with me. And Endurance Minded, above all of the other commitments that we have to our audience, it is built. I created Endurance Minded to answer questions for myself so that I could help other people solve them. And I am squarely in this camp. I wrestle with this every single day. It is a hard thing to admit, but I know that it is the truth, and I see it play out. And when I find my value in my work ethic and I hide from these things, nothing good comes from it. So I hope that you can see yourself in this. I hope that you can see some opportunities on the other side of it. Now I want to talk about what it can actually look like to build emotional endurance so that you can move into a different opportunity, towards some different paths. Because real endurance isn't just physical. This is something we've talked a lot about on this show, but we use endurance as a way to think, a lens through which to think about life. There's so many ways that gets applied. It's not just physical. It's the ability to remain grounded under pressure. I think more specifically, the ability to stay grounded under pressure without abandoning yourself. To stay in the fight, but not at the expense of who we are, how we show up, what matters most to us. So what can emotional endurance look like? It can look like staying present during uncertainty, when that fear creeps in, when that self-doubt creeps in, we stay present. It can look like regulating our emotions and not avoiding them. It can look like handling discomfort without panic. If you're someone who finds themselves in an uncomfortable situation, whether that's a misaligned expectation, whether that is something that hasn't gone as planned, whether that's an outcome that isn't in alignment with what you thought it was going to be, if you're uncomfortable physically, emotionally, mentally, if you're someone who, when that happens, you spin out, you get frustrated, you overreact, you become reactive, you tighten your grip, you try to wrestle everything into submission and fight it till it is molded into exactly what you want. If that is you, this is like, hear me when I say, this is for you, right? Handling discomfort without panic is a skill that will serve anyone who this conversation is resonating with so much. It's okay that it didn't go as planned. It's okay that you're not where you thought you'd be. It's okay that you need to make tweaks. It's okay that the plan didn't work. It's okay that it failed. It's okay that it's taking longer. Whatever it is, if you are in discomfort, being able to handle that without panic is the skill for you to work on. Being able to recover and rest and be still without guilt. Staying connected when you're under stress, not being insulated. So what could that look like tactically? Again, I want you to, as always, walk away with something tangible that you can sink your teeth into. Well, here's what a day typically looks like. High performers often go from a meeting to a workout to calls to dinner to some sort of engagement, scrolling YouTube, TV, reading something, then to bed. Right. So again, high performers often go from a meeting, a workout, call, dinner, scrolling, bed. Rinse, repeat, always, always activated. Again, the time that you sleep doesn't count. We need, it has to be more than that. Now, sleep matters, and what we do during the day impacts our sleep, but the bed part isn't the only part of the equation. There's no time for decompression. So here's some ways around that. Some opportunities to open up space for decompression. Go for a walk without any sort of audio. This has been the single most impactful thing that I've done in my life. Leave your fucking phone at your house and go for a walk. 10 minutes, 5 minutes. Go outside. Leave it alone. You don't need to mix it with a podcast to optimize every single thing go for a walk without audio. Just take a beat. Do it every day. I promise you. It is life-changing. Breath work. Now, I know when I say breath work, people are like, that's BS. That's what I hear you. I'm just take a breath. Lean back in your chair. Take 5 breaths. Right? We do not breathe. Our brains need oxygen. And if you just give yourself a second, literally 3 to 5 breaths, it'll change everything. It cues your body and your mind to recognize that there is an intentional pattern interrupt. Just take a second. Turn off the noise. Turn off the stimulation. Put your phone away. Take a few breaths. Journaling, if that's something that works for you. Now, again, this can take lots of different shapes. You don't have to make some crazy routine out of it. Take a second. Write down a couple sentences. Next time you get stressed, what are you thinking right now? What are you feeling? Next time you have an argument with your partner, or with a friend, with a business partner, whatever, just map that out. Take a second to just write down your thoughts. You can also integrate post-work rituals. How do you shut down after work? I think this is one of the key opportunities or places where we can inject some sort of decompression. Instead of going from work to something else, what can we do? Can you leave your phone? Can you go outside for a second? Can you take a beat? Can you be present with the people in your house? Can you some small thing from work to your next thing? Now I recognize it's dinner and kids and prep and all that. I'm talking very, very small. What can you do to create this kind of post-work shutdown ritual? And what that does is it starts to cue your body and mind that access to rest is available to you, that it doesn't have to be this consistent, compressed period 24 hours a day. Next, think about downshifting intentionally. Just like I said, your nervous system needs to see proof that you can do this, that you can take a few breaths. You can have a post-work shutdown ritual. You can have a moment to take a beat, and that in that moment, safety exists. It's not going to kill you. Nothing bad happens. So next, I want you to think about how you can learn to downshift intentionally. Here's some examples of this. Mobility work. I don't care if you're an athlete or not. Moving your body that is not exercise-based. Mobility, right? That can look like a million different things. You can, move your hips around. You can do simple mobility exercises. There's a million resources on YouTube. A little bit of mobility work. Specifically doing that and recognizing it for the value that it holds intrinsically. It doesn't have to be a workout. You don't have to get your heart rate up. There is value in doing that thing because it gives you the ability to go do other things in your life. It gives you the ability to move well. Another way to downshift intentionally, sauna and cold exposure. Now, I know this isn't accessible to everyone, but it's become popular, and I know many of our listeners have access to that. An incredible resource. Just the ability to breathe and take a beat and be intentional about where we're at and how we are engaging is so impactful. Having a slow morning occasionally. Now, what could that look like? As someone who wakes up firing on all cylinders, I know this is hard. But that can take on lots of different shapes. Just have a coffee. Just enjoy something for the sake of enjoying it. If you don't drink coffee, have a tea, have a glass of water. Just sit 5 minutes. Look out the window. Sit in a chair. Just take a beat, right? It doesn't have to be some long, drawn out thing. Take a slow morning from time to time. Interject moments of pause instead of got to get my workout, got to get my mobility, cold plunge, breath work, journaling, prep. Like that's all activation. Again, that is discipline or hypervigilance masquerading as discipline. We're telling ourselves that we're optimizing everything. Stop trying to optimize everything. Just sit for a second and drink a glass of water. Time outdoors. I mean, anytime you can be outside. We spend an inordinate amount of our time indoors. And if you are in a place in a part of the world where the season is lining up for that, or you have good weather, it's not, just take a beat to get outside. Again, if you can combine that with a couple of deep breaths, you are going to be far and away ahead of most people around you. And then another good way to do that, to downshift intentionally, is unstructured conversations. I love just sitting with people and asking good questions. Be genuinely curious. Be genuinely curious with the people you live with. Instead of the how was your day, how's the family, ask a better question. Right? What was the most enjoyable part of your day? What was the thing that got you most excited? What was the coolest thing you saw out in the world? Did you see anything exciting? Whatever that is, like ask better questions. And be genuinely interested in having a conversation with people around you. Don't be so task oriented all the time. What's this? What's on the calendar? When do we do meal prep? But I get it. All that has to happen. Take a second, have an unstructured conversation, and just listen. Listen for the sake of enjoyment of what's being delivered to you. Next, we have to stop glorifying exhaustion. Exhaustion is not proof of importance. You are not better or more successful or important if you are exhausted. I don't want to hear it. And then take it from someone who's done it for so long. Stop wearing that like a badge of honor. If you're exhausted, it's your own fucking fault. Right? Most people have so much access. There is no reason to be exhausted. Right? Now I recognize that there are people that do not have access to things that allow them time and space for rest. And I know that I am beyond blessed and lucky and grateful to be talking about these things and to have access. But if you are someone who has access and has the ability to move through the world with some level of autonomy, exhaustion is not a badge of honor. You're just doing it wrong. So stop wearing your exhaustion as proof of importance. Studies show that even short periods of a couple of breaths, going outside, having meaningful conversations, all of these things that I listed before, they lower cortisol and your sympathetic nervous system activation. It does not take a heroic lift. Small doses. Also, sleep quality. I know so many people are working on that, but if it's something that still evades you or you struggle with sleep quality consistently, one begets the other. You can't expect great sleep if your nervous system is running from a lion, right? If you are in fight or flight, if your cortisol is constantly spiked, if you're in this dopamine loop with an achievement feedback, relationship, your sleep is compromised. You can be in bed for 6, 7, 8 hours, but it's not going to be quality because you're not turned off. Your nervous system is looking for the lion. It's waiting for the attack. And so you have to do the other before. Sleep doesn't solve it. We've started to use sleep as a panacea to say, well, if I can just sleep, all I'm going to focus on is sleep. Well, if the rest of your day is just redlined, sleep doesn't solve that. You have to interject these other pieces to then get the sleep that you want. But certainly sleep quality directly impacts our emotional regulation, our testosterone, our decision-making, our recovery. It is important, but you have to do the other. And so make sure that, again, I please hear me when I say it's not a heroic effort. Walk outside for a second. Before you get in your car to drive home, just sit there for 30 seconds outside and take a couple breaths. Take a lap around your office building, take a lap around the parking lot, walk outside your office, let the sun hit your face. I'm not advocating for some convoluted routine where there's grounding and some of this stuff is out of control, right? If you're a high performer, you got shit to do. Get to work, right? Don't waste that on over optimization. But hear me when I say that there are things that you can do that are well within your grasp and well within the parameters of your time that will dramatically change how you move through your day and dramatically change how you feel and dramatically change where your ambition and your work ethic is coming from and how you're kind of rooted in it. So this is worthwhile. And with that, I want there to be access to a redefinition of high performance. It is the greatest gift and also the greatest place of pain for those of us that have high capacity. And what I think about is an evolution where high performance isn't about becoming more intense. It's about becoming more regulated, which then allows us to perform at an even greater level. Right now, if you're in a place that is hampered by hyper-vigilance, if you're always on, if you're in this low-grade stress response, you've hit a ceiling. You will not get any better. Your body's tapped out. And so it's actually in conflict to the thing that you say you want the most, which is growth and increased performance and goal orientation and striving and drive. You're shut down. And if you're not there, you will be there soon. So I think what I imagine is the evolution of high performance where it isn't about more intensity, it's about more regulation so that we can do more. And the ability to stay present while carrying responsibility, while being the person that has the ability to carry the weight on our shoulders, but doing that in a way that allows us to stay present. And so the goal is not less ambition, it's not less discipline, it's not less drive. The goal is sustainability. The goal is awareness. I want you to be aware that this is happening. And I bet that it's happening to so many of you. And even if it's not fully actualized, there are pockets where this is showing up for you as a high performer. The goal is emotional capacity. The goal is longevity. The goal is to be able to stay in it, to be able to produce, to be able to perform for as long as you want. And so my final ask to you, our listeners, is what areas of your life are being fueled by alignment and what areas are being fueled by survival? I want you to really think about that. What areas are you just surviving? And what areas feel aligned? What areas feel fully actualized? What areas, if alignment doesn't resonate, what areas do you feel like you're just kicking ass in? Where you're thriving? And then what areas do you feel like you're hanging on by a thread? And I know for a fact that you can build an extraordinary life without living like you're constantly under attack. And that's what I want to leave you with. I know for a fact that you do not have to sacrifice all of the things that you want, all of your ambition, all of your drive. You can live an extraordinary life without living like you're constantly under attack. And that's what I want for you. If any of this resonated, that's what I want you to have access to. And so I hope that you'll put these things in place. I hope you'll look for opportunities. I hope you'll take a beat. I hope you'll stop masquerading discipline is hyper-vigilance, and hope that you'll find a way to sit. Hope that you'll find access to stillness. I hope that you'll find access to true rest, because on the other side of that is the performance that you're actually striving for. It's just not on the path and with the same tools and through the same mechanisms that you've been using thus far. And so we need great people out in the world doing incredible things, pushing hard. I want you to get there in a way that's sustainable. I hope this is helpful. As always, thank you so much. It's been an incredible year so far. I hope you've enjoyed all of our guests. We have an incredible lineup mapped out for the rest of the year. Stay tuned. As always, you can find us at enduranceMinded.com. Let us know what's going on. Scroll to the bottom, drop us a note. If this episode or any others resonated, please share it with a friend. I'd love for you to forward this to somebody you think would benefit from it. You can always subscribe to our podcast, new episodes every other Tuesday. Rate this podcast or any other ones that you've enjoyed. Would love to know what you think. And then lastly, again, share this episode or one that resonated with a friend, colleague, partner. We're here to add value. Our community is incredible. I can't thank you enough. And until next time, we'll see you on Endurance Mind.